you describe your most recent work titled Legacy Collection and how your work at Chesterwood is related to this sculpture?
In the year 1999, I was invited to have a show at the American Academy of Rome. Because of it being Rome, I decided to work on a group of works that were saints, which is not something I'd ever done before. And I got about halfway through that body of work, and then 9/11 happened, and basically the show was canceled. It's just too complicated. People didn't even want to think about shipping sculpture overseas, and budgets were cut. And, I had opened up this whole spiritual aspect to the work, and all these figures looking up. We had a studio full of figures looking up. My studio was where we stayed. My partner and I were separated on that day. He went out to work, and I was home when it happened and could see out the window. So when we found each other, which was about 36 hours later, we went to my studio. So I walked into my studio and I heard all these figures looking up. And I thought, it's got a whole new meaning now. I continued to just keep working. I didn't, I just, it was like I was midstream, so I thought, we'll just keep working and it'll evolve into whatever. I just couldn't think of another immediate situation to show a group of saints. So we were also out of our place for about 2 months, I guess, because where I live was behind the fence they put up, which was part of, they called it an evidence zone. They were still collecting things that came off the plane and all that stuff. So we couldn't get home. So when I did get home, I started walking around the neighborhood and photographing things, just because there was so much that was changed. And one of the things that I was really struck by was that directly across from the World Trade Center, there's a Brooks Brothers store. There's a beautiful building that was a U.S. Steel headquarters building. It was built by U.S. Steel, so it's a black, total cubistic monolith skyscraper. And it's painted matte black I-beam structure and glass. And on the ground floor there's a Brooks Brothers store, which I always loved the entrance to the store because it's set into this black building, and you have to walk up this broad set of granite steps, almost like museum steps or something. And I always thought it was very theatrical, anyway. And now it was empty. And most everything that close had been destroyed. Either the glass was broken, for some reason it was not. And it had actually been taken over by FEMA as a rescue facility that day, but there was no real rescue. So it was just sitting vacant, or they were closed for business until people could get back into the neighborhood. And I took some photographs, and it was just black windows with the white Brooks Brothers logo printed on it. I bought a new computer, and I was teaching myself Photoshop, just because you need to know Photoshop to send pictures to people of your work now. And I always photographed my work in the studio, and now I was doing it with a digital camera. I used to use a Polaroid. And one day I accidentally dropped an image of the sculpture I was working on, these kind of heads of women, into an image that was in the same computer file of the Brooks Brothers window. And the original figure was I had just carved a torso, and it was on a post like an armature, because I wasn't sure what I was doing with it yet. And suddenly it was in the window of Brooks Brothers, the figure looking up. The World Trade Center was right across the street. And it looked like a mannequin because it was on a post, and I thought, oof, this is, So that's how it started. And I thought about, and it seems like from that moment on, maybe because I also had a better computer and I could look at the news online every day, but it was like, even getting the Times, it was like from the moment of 9/11, it was always like one disaster after another on the front page of the Times, and then you turn the page, and the economy was like skyrocketing, and there'd be like the biggest diamond you ever saw in your life on the next page, and then the most expensive pair of shoes, and then, and I was thinking about this merger of marketing and disaster and just, I don't know, I was thinking about, kids growing up with this, does it become merged in their mind? Or I was thinking of all of us in a way. All these images are like back to back all the time. So that's how I developed the work. It was the idea that my view of 9/11 would be somehow seen in the store windows of my neighborhood. And then images coming out of the wars, the idea of night vision lenses and everything, green, and just all this new technology that comes with war that you then begin to be introduced to. And so it became